Alright class, today we're doing 3.3. It's actually a really easy lesson. It's kind of combining, remember when we graphed inequality lines and shaded in chapter 2? Well, we're going to graph a system of them now. So we're going to do a couple at once, and we want the overall answer, which will be the answer to both pieces. Now, here's the difference, and you have to think like this now going forward, just for this chapter. Leave the answer unshaded. So now we are shading false. And you're like, why are you doing this to us, Mr. Vranek? The reason is, when we get to our linear programming, the next lesson, you guys will have probably 5 or 6 different lines with shading. It's easier for you and us to see the answer that you get if you shade everything false, because then it'll leave the answer blank where you have all this shading everywhere else. So that is why, from now on, just for this chapter, the end of this chapter, we are shading false. Alright, so let's do this. So we can graph this by, again, this is standard form. You can do the cover-up method. So if I cover up the 2x, you get y is equal to 2. So y is equal to 2. And if you cover up the 3y, x equal to 3. So there are my 2 points. Has a slope of 2 down, 3 over. I can make another point if I need to. 2 down, 3 over. 2 up, 3 over. The line will be solid because of the fact that it is greater than or equal to. There's my line. So I check that, and I'm going to do a test point. Our favorite test point is 0, 0. So is 0 plus 0 greater than 6? So 0 is greater than or equal to 6. This is false. Remember, we are shading false now. That means that I want to shade everything where the 0, 0 is. So I am shading everything down here. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the second line. Now, I know that the number 7 doesn't make it as nice when we're graphing, but we can still use that and do standard form cover-up method. Remember, this line will be dashed because of this. So I cover up the 2x, and I get y is negative 7. So there's my y, negative 7. I cover up my y, and I get x is 7/2 or 3.5. So that's about right here. Okay, so now I'm going to do a dashed line through these 2 points. And again, I'm going to shade false. So we're not looking at the yellow or the blue right now, we're just looking at that red line. Again, I'm going to test 0, 0. So 0 minus 0, is that less than 7? 0 is true for the red line. So this point right here is true. I don't want to shade towards that line. I want to shade false. So I do not want to shade on this side of the line. I want to shade false. So I'm shading on this side of the line. Again, don't worry about the blue line or the yellow at this point. So there we are. I just did 2 lines, system of inequalities, and our solution to both answers is this unshaded area right here. That's why we say shade false, because now I can clearly see what the correct answer is. Correct answer is right here, these constraints right here. So that is how you do that. Let's do one more, and then you guys are done for the day. Now, we have vertical and horizontal lines, so x is greater than 2. Alright, well, x is 2 is a vertical line. We're going to do a dashed line at 2. And x is greater than 2. Okay, well, do the point 0 for x. If you do 0, is 0 greater than 2? No, that's false. That means we're going to shade false for this one. Because what would be true would be that it's everything to the right. So here's this one, shading. It might be good if you guys had highlighters for the next couple days, or colored pens, pencils, whatever. It might make it easier on your sheets of paper, especially when we do the linear programming problems the next lesson or 2. Alright, y is greater than 3. Well, y is at 3 here. It's a solid line because of the fact that it is equal to. y is greater than 3. Well, 0 is not greater than 3, so I'm going to shade false, which is down. I'm shading down because it's not greater than 3. So that's everything here. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread that. It says y is less than 3, not greater than. I was looking at the flip. So what that means is y is less than 3. 0 is less than 3. I do not want to shade by the 0. I want to shade everything up here. Okay. Alright, so now we can do the third one. Again, do standard form, find the graph. X plus y is negative 4. When you cover each one up, you get x is negative 4, y is negative 4. A slope of negative 1. It is a solid line. I'm just going to put a bunch of points so it's easier for me to draw it. Okay. There's my solid line for that one. And I'm going to use the point 0, 0. Again, when I'm using these test points, I'm only looking at it in relation to this line that I just drew. So is 0 plus 0 greater than negative 4? Yes, it is. So I do not want to shade there. I do not want to shade above this line because that's where it's true. So I'm going to shade everywhere below the line, which really didn't change much of my graph except for the fact that now I have this here. Okay, now I have one more line. X plus y is less than negative 1, so it's going to be dashed. And if you cover each one up, you get negative 1, negative 1. So it's basically these points here and everything with a slope of negative 1. So I'm going to just really quickly, again, to make it easier for me to connect the dots. And you should see that these lines are parallel, the last one that we just did and this one now. Alright, so dashed line through these points. And we now have to figure out what to shade. We can use the test point 0, 0 because it's not on the line. So I'm going to use 0, 0 right here, which is above the line. Is 0 less than negative 1? No, that's false. So I want to shade towards that 0. What color highlighter should I use for this? How about this green one? So I'm going to shade false, which is towards the 0. So everything above that line I am shading. And now I have my final answer. The area of this graph that will solve all 4 of these inequalities is this open area right here. This is the solution for my problem. Graph all your lines, shade false, and then see what you're left with, and that gets you your answer. Okay, that is all we did today. So nice quick lesson. Things that you should know how to do already. It's just now you're shading false and you're doing multiple lines on one graph. And I hope you guys had no questions, and we will talk about this again tomorrow.